Hey folks, this is Ryan with From Corners Unknown. I hope you're doing well. I just recently completed an interview with Plague of Carcosa, a stoner doom metal band based out of the Chicago area. This is a first for the website and a first for the band as well. I'm hoping to make this a more recurring series for the website, so let me know what you think. Thanks.
Well, I'm Mark. I play guitar for Plague of Carcosa, and this is...
I'm Zack. I play guitar and sometimes bass for Plague of Carcosa.
I've read a bit about how the project started off, but could you just, give us some background on how the project kind of Plague of Carcosa started?
Oh, man. So, it was sort of a reaction to the dissolving of a punk band I had been playing in for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So Zack and I actually worked together in the same office, and for a while we'd been trying to, write some stuff, in the vein of Electric Wizard, One Hand, Red Fang, stuff like that, and we could never really find a drummer for a really long time, so I think just out of maybe a desire to, want to feel some sort of, and I did this on my own kind of feeling. I grabbed an audio interface. I went to Chicago Music Exchange with my guitar. I said, fuck this up, tune it to be a bass. Bought custom strings for it.
Mm-hmm.
And once they gave it back to me, I just hit record, and over a couple months, I'd sit down for an hour or two a day and just build what would eventually become The Color Out of Space as a first release. And then eventually, Zack and I did find a drummer for our own thing, and then we, took the songs we had written and eventually started working in more and more of the stuff that I'd come up with independently. And, here we are today. So Haster was the first track that we did, one that I had ever done at a professional studio, which was really nice. And then first track that, we'd done under the POC name with a full live band. You got anything you want to add to that, or?
No, just that everything has been it's been kind of a trip, and we've just changed a lot over the course. How many years has it been now we've been practicing together?
As POC or just you and me?
Just you and me.
Fucking 3 at this point.
Yeah,
I think
it's basically been about 3 years now.
Yeah.
And so you'd figure for 3 years of practicing together, you'd have this sort of wide breadth of material that you would have cranked out, and it's really been Mark and I get along really, really well, but I think when it comes to sort of writing material, that we sort of clash, we butt heads a lot on stuff.
Interesting.
There's a lot of it's almost like a jigsaw. A jigsaw puzzle. We've got all these little ideas from over the years, and given whatever configuration we're, working with in a practice room, be it, a different set of gear, maybe I've got a new effect, or maybe, do or don't have a drummer that particular day,
wildly changes the material, and then we'll go in and then just say, remember that thing we wrote for 2 months? Yeah, fuck that. We're not using that. It's it just ends up the songs that we do have, I think that we've really have got down pat that we've been really happy with, that we really have to be happy with them, because I think I don't know, we give each other a lot of glares and stuff like that. I don't know if that's working
So
on the line, that sort of thing.
And what's the so where does the clash come in from? Are they differing styles and genres that you're trying to mesh together, or is it just
I think Mark and I have slightly different goals, and I think like Mark does like these really expressive, like really crazy, like Mark will just get like a wild hair up his ass and say like this is what's happening today, and do like, you know, like a 10-minute feedback loop and like pick out something like out of that.
Oh, interesting.
Where I'm like, how do we boil that down to 4/4?
Okay, that makes sense.
I think some of it too is just, you know, we ask ourselves like, all right, what band do we want to try to, you know, what have we been listening to lately? How would they play this part? Usually it's how would Bong Ripper structure this, or how would they play that lick?
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's dependent upon the day too. Like everything we have just comes together like a huge fucking jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah. I will say that like at the end of the day, I'm really happy with the stuff that we put out. Like I'm really, really happy with it.
It's just real.
It is a monument.
Like
it's a monument to compromise.
Yeah. No, that was one thing that I noticed too. Like between the stuff that you, Mark, did on your own, the first two releases, and then to the Haster song, it seemed like, I mean, at least in the Colorado space, that one seemed more kind of in the vein of Sun, kind of droney, and then you kind of got more of the stoner metal stuff going on with Haster. So is that something that you guys kind of like compromised on, or was that kind of a natural progression of the sound that you were gonna go from like the Sun sound or like the droney sound to the stoner metal kind of sound?
I think it's like we haven't really like settled like on a specific sound that I think that we have influences for sure that like we want to say like
sure.
Like we love Bong Ripper, we love Sun, but like we also love a lot of other things. Like Mark comes from like a really heavy punk background and things like that, and there's just certain things that like catch our ear and like we want to sound like that. But there's nothing that we said that like we have to be X, like we have to be this genre.
Okay.
And like as a result of that, like we're happy with the material we put out, but it doesn't fit under like one specific genre label.
I would agree. I'd kind of expand on that by saying that there are parts where, you know, we'll take an idea for a song and like, for instance, in Haster, there's that, you know, when we all pause for a beat, and there's that just like little squeak of feedback before everything comes crashing down for the first time. Like just a very small segment of each song, like that. It's like, oh, you know, going back, like, oh, how would Bong Ripper like fill that silence?
Yeah,
and they'd fill it with fucking just feedback.
Right.
So, but by and large, no, there's nothing that we'd set out to try to emulate specifically.
Okay.
But to circle that back to the original point of the question, I think that evolution is just a natural happenstance when you go from just, you know, me sitting right here on my couch, you know, with a bunch of like digital synthesizers to having, you know, two like friends with me in a practice space with real amps and, you know, being able to bounce ideas back and forth and have a dialogue about, you know, where do we want to take this? How do you want to structure that?
Sure.
That sort of thing.
Okay. No, that's interesting. Yeah. And, I don't know. So you touched on a bit on kind of your background in the punk music, and then for Zack, what's your background kind of in, or what's in?
So this is actually the first like real band that I've played in. Like I've played like music like solo for a really long time, but never released any material or anything.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So a lot of this too is sort of it's sort of like me like sort of finding my legs for like how like I want to express myself, and we've kind of brought that into. I've tried to like bring that into like the band as like much as possible. Like we've sort of danced around the idea of like me doing vocals for certain things.
Oh, interesting.
Going back and forth in between this like Bong sort of like chanting, sort of like weird like Gregorian chant, like throat singing, doing stuff like that, like in there to see. And nothing's like quite worked out yet. So
we'll find it.
But you guys have done experiments with that kind of stuff already, like in the studio and stuff. Oh,
yeah, all the time. And it's but it's not something that's like we really decided that we were happy with.
Yeah, it's nothing we set. And then some things too, like when we play through Yithian Ruins as a full band.
Mhm.
I have the samples loaded up on a looper that I ripped, from synthesizers or from the master track of the recording. Stuff kind of like that, to throw on to, kind of add another texture to things when we're in the practice space.
Okay.
So, yeah. Do you want to talk about, like, some worried about your background with the fuckers at all or anything like that? Or like,
I mean, if anybody has a question.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're in the punk stuff, but how'd you kind of go from, say, the punk to kind of the super heavy, dense, droney, caustic reverb? How does that translate, or how'd you get into that?
Well, when your drummer moves away and your bassist gets, when he moves away too, there's not really a whole lot you can do. Or, when he's, in and out of jail. So that kind of makes things hard. And then I kind of grew up with, it was one part The Clash growing up, one part Hot Water Music, and then one part Iron Maiden, Metallica, Megadeth, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, when we started, you said you wanted to start a new wave of British heavy metal band.
Yeah, I was really into...
that's like where our journey has taken us, like, to this point. Yeah.
I was listening to a lot of Weird Lord Slough-Fag. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
is that like the Celtic infused one?
Nah, it's fuck, what's the album? They got one big album known for. It's a concept album about some space thing. I don't know.
Some space thing.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I feel like I know that band, or that name rings a familiar bell. But
did you find that stuff like? Do you find like punk to be like limiting your expressiveness or not being able to say what you wanted to say?
Oh man, that opens me up to a whole another rant about what punk rock is kind of turning into.
Do you think it's still like valid movement? Do you think it's even a movement anymore?
I think it is, and I think with any music, it can be the avenue for a lot of different things socially and culturally. I think that in relation to me, just the shit that the fuckers would sing about, we probably get our asses kicked at a lot of venues compared to about 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah. You guys were leaning on like the vein of like shock rock, like you opened for the Dwarfs.
Yeah.
Stuff.
The Dwarfs thought we were great. They got the jokes, but people probably wouldn't these days. It's not. Some of it is just being burnt out from doing booking for so long, and some of it is just the scene itself. I have really no desire to throw myself back into the punk scene, at least around here. I mean, that's not to say anything negative about the scene or the people. It's just I'm getting older. I'd rather play video games. I'd work 2 jobs. I'm engaged. My time is my time. No, I don't want to spend $5 to go, take an L to the South Side and see a shitty hardcore band. People were great, but it's just not for me anymore.
Sure. What is the music scene out like where you guys are? Because I honestly don't know much about you're in the Chicago area or in.
Yeah, we're right now. We're actually this is my apartment. We're right by Wrigley Field.
Okay.
Little Lakeview.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I would say that at least within the context of heavy metal, since that's what From Corners Unknown is more so geared at than punk rock or anything. Big local heroes, Bong Ripper. We're very fortunate to be able to call them our local band.
I didn't even know Bong Ripper. I've only listened to a bit of Bong Ripper. I didn't realize they were from the area. That's actually really cool.
Yeah. Huh. I went to Reckless Records the other day, and I don't know why. Like a total noob, I guess. Like I walked in and was like, "It's looking for Bong Ripper. If you guys have any," and they're like, "We have Miserable," and I was really looking for Satan Worshipping Doom, and then like the cashier kind of like rolled her eyes at me like, in a certain way. Like I didn't even realize it. I was like, "Yeah," and they just started like talking to myself like, "Yeah, they're from Chicago. They're pretty cool." And she was like, "I know who Bong Ripper is." like, like matter of fact sort of way. Like, I can't believe you're even asking me that question.
I mean, Jesus.
I figure, like, so, like, metal itself, though, is, like, this thing where, like, you have these heroes, and, like, they're so big to you, and they're so big in your world.
Yep.
And you go ask, you try to connect with somebody on the street about it. They're like, well, who and why do I care?
Yep. No, but
yeah, going back to the local scene, you've got venues here and there that cater to certain things.
Reggie's? We got Reggie's.
Reggie's Rock Club is a big one for punk and metal. They're really good to a lot of, the local smaller acts.
Empty Bottle, for
Empty
sure,
Bottle.
has some stuff come through.
And even
you
spaces,
played a show at the Empty Bottle. You played your solo, like, Plague of Carcosa, like, solo thing at the Empty Bottle.
Yeah. And somehow I got $75 for doing that shit. It was great.
Mark droned amps at the Empty Bottle for, like, an hour.
Wow.
And, yeah.
So
you guys, so you have, that was actually one of my curiosities, too. So you have played some of, as a 3-piece, have you guys played anything live yet, or
we did a radio? Yeah, we did one live show over at Martyrs.
Okay.
Which was like our first like real thing together, and then we played a radio show. What was it? It was at University of Chicago. We did the radio show.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the name of the show was?
Not off the top of my head. I can look it up. I just got the emails.
So we were so psyched to play that, and I think that's like. We did a lot of like impromptu, like sort of just like improvisational material, and just like kind of like fucked around, which we can afford to do during certain sections because they're so drony.
Mm-hmm.
And people kept telling us that was like the best we've ever sounded.
Really? Interesting.
But the recording like has faded into history. Like they gave us the files and they were all corrupted.
Oh, jeez. And this is the oh wow, huh?
Super unfortunate.
Pour one on the curb.
Pour it out for your homies. That sucked. But that was really cool being able to do that.
Yeah.
But we haven't actually played live too much. Other than those two things, Mark has done like a solo show. Or did you do 2? Or did you do?
I've done like 2.
Oh wait, no! You guys did that. You guys did like a Doomfest thing too, or whatever. Remember like that Chicago like Psych Fest?
Cairo Ale House. Yeah. That was way like an hour out of the city.
Yeah.
And that was just me and Jason. So I wouldn't really even count that.
So we mostly spend time in the lab, is basically what we're trying to say.
Okay. No, that's fair. No, that's good to know. Yeah. Are you guys, I know you're working on some new material right now, right? As that, are you planning to like make some sort of like an EP or like a debut, like a full set of songs or anything for that?
Yeah, full set of songs. Be able to book a show and walk into the venue and know we're going to play songs A, B, and C tonight, and we're not going to drag them out. We know the structure. We're not going to make anything up on the fly. That's the goal as far as a set thing of, a set collection of things to record. For the time being, the prime new song we've been working out is pushing over 15 minutes in length.
Wow.
As of now, we just finished writing it this past week. So we'll see where that takes us, and then also there's the financial aspect of that. So yeah. I think for the time being, before we do more shows, that's definitely,
We're going to put out more singles, I think, first before we put out an EP.
Yeah.
For sure.
That seems to be the way we work. That makes sense for all of us. And then, definitely, start doing some shows here and there once we, like I said, be able to walk in and know, all right, this is what we're doing.
Our thing that we're working on right now is particularly digestible. We're working with really simple structures and not too much improv or anything like that.
Yeah.
So even though it's really long and I think that's probably our most bong ripper influenced one.
Yeah, it's got a lot of.
It just stands in stark contrast to some of the stuff that we've put out previously.
For sure.
Yeah. Kind of thinking about it, I've had this idea for a while that doom metal is almost like the punk rock of the heavy metal world.
Well, it's a reduction for sure.
Yeah, everybody rips on punk rock for being the same 4 chords over and over, and then I look at the things that I'm playing as the backbone of this new 15-minute behemoth that we've got, and oh shit, it's just the same 4 chords.
It's yeah. So like Doom is really interesting to me, just to talk about like philosophically, just to talk about it. So it's built as like an addition, like to add additional like depth and meaning to like traditional song structures and things like that are mostly about like either you're real happy with your girl or like your girl left you. So what else is there to write about, right?
Yeah.
Like it grows out of these things where you're talking about like human consciousness and like emotional states and the state of the world, and just like the music got a lot heavier, both philosophically and in actuality, like it got a lot heavier. So out of that edition, like things keep escalating and escalating and escalating, like over years. Like I'm a huge death metal dude, and I absolutely adore like Black Dahlia Murders. I saw Ryan Knight at Target the other day. And I like about lost my fucking mind, and I was like, the dude in Target, I shouldn't freak out.
No, I just saw the Black Dahlia Murder. They just rolled through Eugene just a few days ago. Actually, they played with Suffocation and all those other like old school bands. That was a great show.
I absolutely adore death metal. That's like sort of what I cut my chops on, is like just sort of like wanting to be that, like wanting to be like Chuck, wanting to be like Ryan Knight, stuff like that. But I'm technically I'm very far away from that. But that's like sort of something that I adore. But that is that same music in excess, and in the way that it's like it's gotten way too excessive to the point where it doesn't know what it's doing really anymore. Like we've explored like these same death metal's explored these same themes like over and over again. Like murder's a thing. Hell's kind of cool, right? Like hell's sweet. Dragons are all right from time to time, I guess. Like it's just like these same. Yeah. And like they're great when they were just like, it's like fun power music. But then like where do you go from there?
Yeah, it seems like you've already hit kind of an extreme with that, and it's like, how do you kind of transcend what's already...
You go back down, you reduce, the rubber band goes the other way.
Yeah.
So that is super interesting to me, how we're sort of exploring that in taking like these like death metal absolutely adores having 17 different rhythm changes and like these crazy like rhythmic patterns and like all this shit happening in it. And like Doom goes, no, we don't really care. We just want music. That's like, that's the same thing. It's listenable. And, I don't know if Mark's goals are the same as like mine when I say that, like, I want to explore like, sort of like the ideas behind that, like what makes music listenable, especially in these like heavier sort of genres, like, Doom, death metal, like everything. What attracts us as people like to that sort of music? What makes a riff click in your head and say like, that's fucking great, as opposed to another song by the same band where you're like, that one's that's sort of the stuff that I really want to explore and really want to like figure out, like what that is for me, especially in the context of, we have these people that make unlistenable music. Like our peers make unlistenable music, like as a point of pride. So like I adore Sun-O, like with all apologies to Sun-O, but like it's one of those things that you don't put on in the car. It's one of those things that doesn't necessarily like give you power, but it does set a mood. And that's interesting to me. I don't know. What was the question?
Oh jeez, it's been a little bit. I couldn't even.
For me, I mean, it's. I see where you're coming from, and I 100% agree with what you're saying, Zach. But it's a little bit simpler for me. Just when I'm, on my deathbed 15, 20 years from now, I want to be able to look back and say, I made some shit that people enjoy. I just want to know that.
So we have literally the same goal.
Yeah, I guess. Boil it down, without getting, as philosophical as you got. I want to know that there's somebody out there that enjoys the things I do and takes an interest in the things that I write and record. I've been doing it since I was 13 years old, and I've never really gotten comfortable with someone saying, "Hey, like I really like that thing you put out." It's just a weird sensation to hear that. But when you sit and process it after that initial shock of, wait, this person likes this thing I did, then it's fucking great. So that's really just, I just want to know that somebody likes the things I do, not just my mom.
Yeah. So like this music though, in a certain way, is like, I think that like Mark and I, like from emotional standpoints, like from our life and stuff like that, like had a lot of just like sort of shit like happen to us, and like a lot of them, like one of the great things about music is that you can identify and empathize with it and like internalize it in this way.
Sure.
That maybe other media doesn't communicate the same way to a lot of people.
Sure.
Like I can hear a song and like get teary and like get upset or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But not a lot of paintings or not a lot of photos I will look at and be like, man, that really hits me in the chest. Like we found this like effective vehicle to sort of communicate the things that we want to say.
Yeah.
Even though there's no vocals, like there's no way to do that. Like we want to communicate these ideas, like these feelings, like these thoughts without words in the simplest way, because like this genre, this doom, this whole thing that we're doing is like an effective way to translate that sort of stuff.
If I can springboard off that and make a plug for the upcoming track, kind of touching on that issue of emotional state, even without, singing about, this is how I feel, blah, blah, blah. That's why the new song's called Rats in the Walls.
Yeah.
It's just this, it's the same four chords just over and over in different ways, and just like, it's almost like a rat's trying to chew through the fucking drywall, just trying to get somewhere.
Builds up into it. Yeah.
Yeah. You just, even my hand as I play it, like, I want to just move away from these chords, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an emotional thing, but at the same time, in the process of, that one or two times per week when we all get together is more in that room. That's the best time of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this all comes from a place of having something to communicate, but being unable to do it using conventional methods.
Sure. And is it something that's like pretty cathartic for you as well? Like the whole process of, I know you said this, the new track, the Rats in the Walls track, that's going to be 15 plus minutes. Is it like the whole process of writing the track and being able to, eventually perform in front of people? Is it like a cathartic thing to kind of like find a way to, express, like you communicating with your other bandmates? Is it like a cathartic thing to like be able to, pull something this massive together?
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah, I still can't believe that, holy shit, this thing's 15 minutes long.
And how many arguments did we get into? And like how many times have we? And like it's that whole thing, like giving birth to this baby, this doom baby, like is like
fingers at it.
Like it's just like it really is. It's the utmost extreme. I think the last time that you and I played a show, like. We wrote all that material for months and months and months, and we like held on to it for so long, and we thought about it for so long, and then we performed. And I like couldn't give less of a shit about that material anymore.
After you played
it, in the same way, yeah. Like after we played it, and then we like did it, like we built this up so much.
System,
we did
kind
of. It was like it's like
we've released it.
We've released it into the world.
It's like an emotional shit.
One of those sorts of things. Yeah.
So what's the I'm curious too, since like the name of the band and like some of the songs seem to be revolving around like the Lovecraftian mythos and Robert Chambers and all that, like is talking about how the music is like the emotional outlet and it's cathartic to write. I mean, is there any relation between that and the choice of like the song titles and the imagery you're going for with the Lovecraftian sort of stuff? Like, is there some connection there?
I think it's it's like easy, right?
Yeah,
like, unfortunately, like that's
fair.
To be perfectly brutally honestly, yeah. 1, it's easy. 2, it's cool. And 3, it plays into the idea that, I mean,
it's like what do we want to accomplish with this, right? Like,
there's something idea, the idea that there's something bigger than all of us out there. In this case, it's the music. In the case of the world, it's these entities from beyond time and space that warp our minds and drive us insane once they rise from the sunken cities and all that good stuff. But there's something bigger out there. There always is.
Yeah.
There's always going to be.
I think that Mark and I are like really attracted to like these stories and like occult material and stuff like that. Like because it's fucking sweet, but like also because like there is like a lot of like for me personally like feelings of like fear and like helplessness in my life that I like try to like rationalize and like try to fix, and like occultism stuff, that's like a way to control the world, even like you don't have like a way to control it.
Sure.
Lovecraftian things are like are anything that like theme like thematically anything in that genre is more about expressing you're small, you're helpless, you're afraid. And it's those same things, like those same ideas that don't necessarily translate, like again, like with words, like very easily.
Yeah, no,
like,
that's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Lovecraft, like famously, like describes like these towers as being cyclopean, like the mountains as cyclopean. It comes up a lot, like as a reference, and it doesn't fucking mean anything.
Yeah, it does.
But like, as to what? Like,
it's an architectural term.
I mean, like, right, that is derived, like,
yeah.
But like, it's one of those things, like, coming up with like, how do you describe something that's indescribable? Like those sort of things.
Yeah, like you get just enough detail to kind of let your mind fill in or try to fill in the gray area, but it's still kind of opaque and creepy and
right. And I think that is very close to like what we do too.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a better answer than I could give.
Yeah.
Nail on the head there, man.
No, that's interesting. So are you guys, so I guess we've talked a bit about some of the musical influences, but do you guys draw influences from, say, films or literature beyond just like Lovecraft's mythos and other folks kind of in that realm?
Yeah, I think we're both big horror fans in general.
Yeah, I mean, even some more, like mainstream movies. I mean, I don't know how much a movie can really impact an instrumental piece of music directly. I mean, obviously, of course, it can.
Given context.
Yeah, but things like the new Blade Runner, for instance. It was a risky movie to make, and it's very long, and it kind of gives you the sense that as the creator of something in a different medium, it's okay to take this a risk in this way or a risk in that way, and it'll pay off in the end. Like Rats in the Walls is to Blade Runner 2049 as Dope Smoker is to Titanic, whatever. I don't know. You get what I'm saying, though?
What? Yeah, but like, what do you like? Like, what other outside media do you feel like has influenced your music?
Comics, video games.
Yeah, go for it, man. Like, what comics?
Desolation Jones, Warren Ellis, probably my favorite one of all time. Just a weird dystopian James Bond style adventure with a exiled British Secret Service agent that's locked in LA and hasn't slept in 100 days.
Hellboy for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Huh.
Honestly, which is weird enough, like as it is, because it's like, how do you translate these other like outside media things like in your music?
Yeah.
But honestly, Hellboy opened the door for me, and I think that I sort of take Mike Mignola. God help me if I mispronounce his name, but Mike Mignola sort of encapsulates like my theories like on music and how I want to approach art like in general. Like I sort of gave up. I went to art school and like I wanted to do this thing like going in that like I wanted to be hyper detailed and hyper complex about like everything that I drew and everything that I did, and I wanted to put in every last bit of detail like in the world into it just to make it something beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. But like a lot of times you put in all that effort and it doesn't do its job very well. Mike Mignola does simple line work on everything, but it's the way that he does it is so delicate and at the same time like so strong. Like he cements everything like with his confidence. He communicates everything so effectively using such little information. Giant splashes of like the same like color, right? Like it's not like hyper detailed. Like nothing is like shaded out and perfectly. It's just like it's everything is ultra flat, everything, but it's still given a dimension. Simplicity. Simplicity is like the best way to express yourself.
Interesting.
Keep boiling things down until you find the heart of something.
I see.
And also that was the intro to me for like Lovecraft and the occult and like stuff like that, because Lovecraft, like as cool as like some of his work is, like it's impenetrable with some of it. It's hard to, other than like the main like popular stories that people know. Like I find myself like having to reread stuff over and over again in order to understand like what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, he has a bit of the way he talks is a little.
Some of that.
So Mike Mignola like gave me this thing where he was like, "Hey, elder gods are cool, right?" And I was fucking yeah, like that idea is awesome. Like that's like, but like did it in such a scale and like gave me such perspective on it. Where again, like you have like. This character who is important but still very small in the grand scheme of things, like translated these themes that were awesome in Lovecraft like in a really effective way, and I adore that guy's work.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. So that's a big one for me. I mean, like I think Mark and I both love like exploitative B horror too.
Oh, for sure.
Which is where a lot of our like love and imagery and stuff like that comes from.
Yeah, and part of it is stuff kind of like that gives off the underlying message of, hey, like you don't need to be serious all the time, like so some of that like creeps its way into the stuff that we make too.
Yeah,
I feel like you always got to have there has to be like some way for a little bit of fun to seep into everything.
Oh yeah, I think so. Like as dark and like cult as like we want to be, like we're not. I still love like making that stuff and getting like, oh dude, that sounds evil. Like, oh, I love that. But like, we still do like punky sort of stuff from time to time. We still like do like little breaks, and we still do like it's totally that's reflected in our personalities and our music 100%.
Sure.
We have to break up that and like wink a little bit and like smile a little bit and like let you know that we're not 100% on. Because we'll never be those people.
Yeah.
Like, we're not,
Because you burn out way too fast.
Yeah.
You're always on.
Yeah. We're not that Spell Omega, and that's fine.
Oh, yeah. No, I've given those guys a listen. I think I can get through, like, a song or two, and I got a headache from it, from what I can remember. I need to revisit them. But, yeah, it was pretty brutal, the first listen.
But it's, like, fine, right? Like, we want to express, like, we love those themes, we love those same things, but, like, it doesn't reflect who we are, like, as people, and sure. I think it's our music should reflect that as well.
Interesting. So, and I may be repeating myself, but when you said you, like, from your perspective, trying to, like, boil things down to, like, its essence or whatever, is Doom music for you kind of a vehicle for exploring those, like, kind of like the sonic equivalent of, like... I'm failing to find the right word, but like, is that genre or Doom kind of the way you're trying to find like the most apt way to express yourself?
Yes, like in the same way, like in the way that like I fucking hate pop music, but like I love Doom. Like it's the same shit. Like it's the same.
Sure.
Those same ideas. Like how do you make something stick in somebody's head? And that, at least from the stuff that we are into, like. like High on Fire, like listening to like I don't know, I'm trying to give it like Electric Wizard 100%, like just does this thing where they play like the same riff over and over again, and the riff in itself can be fairly complex, but they do it in this way where it's like you just keep hearing it and it gets stuck in your head, just like that cementing itself. That so there's that, but yeah, like there's a certain reduction involved, even though like we talked about earlier how it was like an addition to like previous music is adding.
Exactly.
From our perspective, like growing up, like I was born in '88, like like I grew up listening to like I don't know, like Opeth and shit like that, where there's like so much going on.
Yeah, of course.
Like probably like I was like big into prog metal for a long time. There's so much shit going on. And that's re-listenable for a lot of reasons. There's like a lot of stuff going on, and your brain sort of latches on to like maybe one or two given things. But like Doom to me overall is a reduction. It's finding what works out of the chaos and like cementing that into your listener's head. And I think pop music approaches it from like a similar angle. But
whereas pop would have, you know, the vocals delivering a melody for a chorus, Doom would have the guitar, the bass, giving a listener, here's that riff again one more time.
Yeah. So it's that to me. It's finding what works in all the chaos and everything that we've built up so far. Because there's a question of, I don't know if we're necessarily pushing the envelope really. Like I wouldn't say that we're necessarily like totally pushing the envelope.
Sure.
And we exist right now because of the foundation of like other metal bands that have come out and said like, what if we try this new crazy thing? What if we add this onto it? We're kind of saying, what if we take that away?
Okay.
I think it is worth noting our setup. I mean, like I said, we're not necessarily trying to push the envelope in any given way at all, really. It's just not look for ourselves. But I mean, our setup is fairly unique, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're tuned down to C standard,
yeah,
and then you'll do just one regular guitar amp, and then you've got your effects and everything. You use the organ pedal a lot.
Yep.
Explain what that does real quick.
Yeah, I literally know, like, even the tuning. I wish I knew, and I don't know almost any of it. So
I have Mark is like so we don't have a bass in the band, but the way that we've interacted is like kind of interesting, like sonically. Somebody's gonna call me out when this goes on the web and say like this guy doesn't talk about it. We have this sort of like punk sort of like think about that. We're just sort of like throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Sure.
We've developed this like interesting sound kind of recently where Mark has been tuning down to F, and I'm at C, which is still really fucking low.
Now, how low is F? F, I assume, is decently lower than C as well, or
yeah.
So I'm essentially more or less playing a bass, and then he's playing just a regular.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay.
We're both playing guitar.
Yeah.
Mark is doing like he's like you're like splitting the signal between two amps.
Okay.
Yeah, one will be a guitar amp, and one will be a bass amp. And the bass amp gets fed with an octave pedal.
Yeah.
So take the already low tuning, split that signal, and then one amp has it coming out normally, and then one amp turns it into a bass, more or less, that follows along perfectly with whatever I play.
So we've got like sort of like this unique tone, like sort of
going we'll fuck around with the EBO sometimes. You've got, all your effects and stuff. I've got all mine. Mine are more time-based than texture, whereas yours will, change your sound up a whole lot. And then, you fuck around with the EBO sometimes.
Or just the regular cello.
Yeah. That was cool. I still missed it.
Yeah. Pretty cool. But yeah, we do like some, even though we're not like super pushing the envelope, we are like sort of trying to develop
a cool little thing.
Like we're trying to find our tone, like to differentiate ourselves, because I think that like a lot of doom music and like a lot of artists just like figured out like something that worked.
Sure.
Like they know like if you play like a big muff pedal like into what like a 120, like then you're just good.
Mm-hmm.
These are the 3 parts you need to buy, and just go with those.
Yeah.
And you get the classic.
Yeah. An old amp, a Russian big muff, and thick strings.
Yeah. So it's that sort of thing where like well, we're not pushing the envelope. We do want to differentiate ourselves and build like this really interesting sound.
I think we've done a great job with that.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're still finding it.
Yeah.
No,
Shame we don't have recordings to document, the journey we've kind of taken in that aspect, but I think it is definitely worth, putting out there for people's consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool to hear though, because that like from some of the first couple releases to the Haster song, I mean, I don't know, relative to like how far you guys have been working on your sound, but it definitely, I mean, I really do like the kind of, it sounds relatively unique or pretty unique to me compared to other Doom bands I listen to, just how you kind of have like the slow cacophonous droney intro and then kind of like that heavy stoner riff just kind of drops, right? I can't remember how long it takes to get to that point, but I thought it was a pretty cool clash or like mix of sounds. So
thank you.
Thanks.
So I guess what I'm also curious about too is you guys. So you said you had some trouble getting a drummer at least for a while, and I remember Mark, you and I were exchanging some emails, and you said the guy you brought on board was like he's never heard of Doom music, and you're like, oh, here's some records or something. You just kind of handed him off, and I mean, I thought the guy played pretty darn good on what I heard on the song. It was actually I liked it a lot. So I mean, how was like that whole process? Was that something that both you guys like? Did you both recruit him, or like how'd you figure out about him? And
so I mentioned earlier, Zack and I work in the same office. Guy who worked there was like, oh, hey, you guys should meet my friend Jason. And we did, and talked about it over some beers and scheduled a practice. We invited him to the next one we had. And yeah, he's a really great drummer, really great guy. I wish he was here to chime in with his side of things.
Sure.
He's really, so his background is all over the place. Like he played all different kinds of music.
He's done a lot of noise bands in his past.
Math rock too.
Math rock.
Yeah. One in particular that he always likes to mention is I can't remember for the life of me what their name was, but it was him and a guitar player who would structure all their stuff based around a looper pedal that he had.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of fun with that. So yeah, and then he hadn't gotten familiar with a lot of Doom before, and now he's going with us to see Bomb Ripper and shit whenever they're doing something local. And then he fucking loves Dinosaur Jr. and what was it, Mogwai? He was just
Sleeping People.
Yeah, he was going on about the new Mogwai album.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the Jesus Lizard at some point too, or yeah.
Yep. So yeah, he's really interesting. So like, it should be noted that whenever he's playing slow stuff with us, he's like dying on the inside, and he wants to speed it up like so bad. Yeah. He can't wait to like do double time, and I think that like comes out like in various points you'll probably see in like future recordings with us, is that he's dying to do double time or like dying to burst out and just do a crazy fill.
Oh, Rats in the Walls, he's got his moments.
He's got his moments on there.
That's the fastest we've played on here.
Yeah, I think so
far.
Like that is that's something that we'll probably see in the future though.
Yeah, definitely. I think Conan probably they laid a really great foundation for the faster side of doom metal with their latest album. The title track is fucking doom metal with blast beats, and it's great.
Oh, interesting. I never really got into those guys. They're definitely worth checking out then.
Yeah. I mean, they're one of my favorites. If I had to give you like a big three of doom bands, both new and old, off the top of my head, and this probably because they're the only back patches I have in my vest right now, but Conan, Bomb Ripper, and Church of Misery would be my go-tos. Conan's real good. I wish they got to Chicago more. Yeah, you can't get Beast in the Field merch anymore. They're another one, too. They're another instrumental band.
Since defunct.
They're from Michigan. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I've not heard of them before.
It was guitar player and a drummer,
Mhm.
and they were known for just they had. Well, if you look up pictures of them live, you can see just the mountains of gear that this guitar player would use.
Nice.
We're talking about like a total of 1,200 watts of tube amps for every show, or of like 16 cabinets.
Jeez.
Not that dummy stuff that, you know, big name bands use like on arena tours and stuff. Like these are actual all functional cabinets with speakers ripped from movie theaters. And yeah, they're a lot more riff based in a sense that like technically proficient, I guess you would say, not to like make simplicity into a derogatory term, but they're a lot busier than a lot of other doom acts in their playing. And I think maybe that stems from, you know, the fact that it's, you know, just two people rather than, you know, 3, 4, 5, whatever.
Yeah.
But they're really good too. And I think some of their kind of style seeps into the faster parts of Rats in the Walls, and going back to Conan, their whole faster doom metal thing, that, you know, kind of has its moments in there as well. And then we'll slow it back down again. We'll, you know, dramatic pause here and there, you know, that sort of thing.
Is it Hawk as a Weapon, where like they play it and they just fucking grind it to a screeching halt? Like they get so fast and then they just like go full stop.
That's Revengeance.
Okay, that's what
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's that was the one I was thinking of in particular.
Interesting. So your drummer. So he like is there. I'm trying to think back to like the conversation you and I, Mark, were having, just kind of like how the project started kind of as your own thing, and now how it's kind of morphed into a more full band. How is it like, you know, like letting other people, I don't know the right way to ask this. Like, how is it like letting other people like join in, and how has it been like, you know, working with, you know, more full band again after kind of falling from the punk band that you had?
Oh man, I love it. I love it so much. It's nice to, you know, be able to talk about ideas. I feel like it pushes me more, so I much prefer, you know, even though we don't record a whole lot, I much prefer, you know, going into an actual room with people. Even if we just end up dicking around for 3 hours, it's better than sitting alone, just hitting record on my laptop.
There's a lot of risk in like doing that too, right? Like, because like you could fall in love with something without somebody there like double checking you. And then, like, the next day you'll be like, "Oh, dude, that sounds like shit."
What is it?
It's wasted a whole day.
That's definitely that's how I view some of the work I've done. So
interesting. Well, how is it when you guys go into like a practice session or recording? I mean, do you guys usually go in with like some like, do you each have your own ideas and you try and make them all kind of work together, or do you know, is there like one main person who does the writing and then you try and build around that? Or
pretty organic?
Yeah, I would say it's organic, and then I would think I would answer that with at least from a quantitative perspective. I mean, you and I have had so many different little ideas for riffs and songs over the years that we still haven't finished picking apart what we had and bringing that in front of Jason and saying, "All right, what do you think of this?"
Yeah.
So we still haven't run through everything that we've written together. So
we sort of what we'll do, like at least from like what I think we've been doing thus far, is like I'll go into my corner and like write stuff in my own free time, record it on my phone. Mark will do the same thing, record it on his phone. We'll send it back and forth to each other. Like, how does that sound? Okay. You like this? No, that sounds like shit. Cut the second 30 seconds out completely. Jason usually just thumbs up everything, like classic drummer. Like he's like, "Yeah, sounds good. Whatever you guys are doing."
And then he'll just start cranking out the beats, or he'll just start playing.
Yeah. Drummers are like fucking unicorns, and they're also weird. When you do find a drummer, you're just gonna just roll with whatever you tell him, but yeah,
that's been his sort of challenge is for us to present him with like these weird walls of sound, and for him to like pick out certain things in there that he wants to add a beat to, like on it. And he's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah. Not to detract from anything he's brought to the table anyway, but I think he's most comfortable with chiming in with ideas and opinions once he gets comfortable playing off whatever particular idea we're throwing at him.
And then I think we all do that to our own extent, though. Like we'll record something on your own, like solo, but then like when you really get in the room, like everything changes.
Yeah.
That all gets thrown out the window, and you might keep 5% of the riff you actually wrote, like the first 2 notes. Like those are golden.
And everything else is just whatever, it's just trash.
But at the end of the day, like really, like our work is sort of, it's a lot of compromise. It's a lot of like we're happy. Like at the end of the day, like no matter what, like I don't think we would play something that we just like, oh, I hate that part of it, or like I'm really unhappy with that part of it. Or
we wouldn't waste our time with that.
None of our personalities are really like that. Like we're the type of people. I don't know. Maybe it's just a Chicago thing. We just like immediately have to. If we don't like something, we'll just tell you about it right there and then. Like, hey, no disrespect.
My fiance would probably like to chime in on that.
Hey, no disrespect, but it's one of those things.
Yeah, I think part of that too is like, one, this is our thing. 2, we're paying, for the time to use that room, so let's not fuck around too much. And then 3, it's only, the 3 of us at this point. So, I mean, it's not like there's going to be that, that one song where it's like, oh, I hate playing this song, but it's on the set list tonight, so I guess we're doing it.
Like if you write, you're going to play something for 16 minutes, like you better be happy with it.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It all happens like pretty organically, and things change a lot, and we're pretty okay with that. We don't have like a ton of like work to show for it as a result, but at the end of the day, we're very happy with the material.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever left a practice room
without changing something at least once.
Yeah, displeased in any way.
No.
Even if we, have no progress to show for the night, even if the song that we're working on gets totally changed up, we still
like it. Yeah. Did that happen a lot, like in your punk band, where you felt like you were leaving stuff like pissed off about like how the direction the song was going?
No, I don't think so. No. I mean, that band admittedly started as more of an excuse to drink and play guitar than anything else, but it morphed into something bigger over the time that it was alive. And it's still alive in a sense. We're just kind of scattered throughout the country at this point. So, might get a proper farewell later. But anyways, yeah, I don't think we ever really had that either. But there have definitely been other projects I've been in where, I played bass and, for lack of a better term, I guess, just a generic indie rock band a long time ago. And most of the set was just me just like, oh, all right, yeah, it's okay, I guess. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
But never in love with the material you're playing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, with that it was more of an excuse to be with my friends than an excuse to make music. Whereas this, it's more about the music than anything else.
Saying something,
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Are you guys planning to play your new song at any point, like in front of some folks, or?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that just comes down to whenever we can.
I think we're going to develop a new set before we do, though, too. So it might be a little.
Yeah, I mean, that was exactly going back to that point. Walking into the venue and know, like, all right, here's the set, and not have any. All right, the next 10 minutes are just going to be an improvised little thing like we used to do.
Yeah.
So once we get the ability to fill like 30, 40 minutes with something that would be set in stone, then we'll start booking again.
So maybe, I think probably we'll work on it probably this entire year. So it might be a better part of a year till we actually play this stuff live.
Oh man, we already got 15 minutes down with this one. Pastor's another 6 to 8. So we could already book an opening slot.
Right. Do you guys also have any? I mean, besides the rats in the walls, do you have some other songs that are kind of looming behind that one that you're going to work on?
I think we're sort of in a different phase now, though. Like, we have different goals, I think, in mind for like this sort of year and like the sort of material we want to put out. At least I do.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation for another time. But we've got some stuff on the back burner, and like I said, there's still no end to the the barrel of ideas that me and Zack have come up, from the days before we had Jason with us. So we can always,
go back to the pile.
Back to those.
Go back to the pile.
Throw some new stuff on the pile. There's no shortage of stuff that we've been working on. It's just a question of what our focus is going to be for any given time period.
Yeah.
And within that pile of stuff, does it all fit within the context of this project, or are there other projects you think that you may like give birth to with the other ideas you have? Like, is it all within?
If those ideas were to be pieces of clay, then they need to be molded a little bit, but only a little bit.
I think like we've actually gotten a lot of success about like pulling things out of the pile, like from our like very early sort of like thing where we've developed like this like very like electric wizard riff, and like, okay, what if we slow that down to like halftime? Like, what if we even like slow that down even further? And we're like, oh man, that sounds like that really works. And like you're reusing this like same sort of material that you like kind of passed on before. And you're like, there's something in there that really works for me. Like it's crazy like how like malleable like all this stuff is.
Yeah.
Sort of the beauty of it. What are your? I mean, like, do you have any idea like where you want to go like in the future with this?
I really like the way Rats in the Walls came out, and I'm really, really excited to go to the studio and lay that down with our engineer. From there, I just want to keep doing stuff that is fun to play and that sounds good to me. I'm not a very happy person. Just kind of, that's just who I am. But definitely, doing this shit keeps me in check and makes me feel good. So, as long as I don't lose that, then, that's really the only concrete thing that I can say. Do you got something in mind?
No, I think that, like just finding more ways to like sort of express, I don't know, the sort of things that we want to say, like, again, but like, moving forward, like in a certain way to like try to like find more of our legs beneath us, like just moving forward with our sound.
Yeah.
And like expanding our gear and like, I don't know. Yeah. Like finding what works for us the right way.
Yeah.
Do you have any like inkling or idea as to how the sound, this is probably not answerable, but like with the introduction of something like the stoner based stuff, do you think you're going to continue on like that sort of trajectory going forward, or do you think that was just kind of a bit of an experiment and you may start going other directions?
I like so like my sort of thing, like my like what I want to do is I would like to combine like sort of like that old style of I don't know, this like loose, like sort of like improvisational, like big wall of sound stuff in a way that like is more focused. And it's sort of an idea that I like have in my head about like what do I want to accomplish sonically that I like really haven't ran past Mark. So you're hearing it here first. But this album is like really impressive to me and like a bunch of other pretentious shitheads. Is Lou Reed's is it Metal Music Machine?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've listened to like 10 minutes of that, and it's
there's so like at the risk of sounding like an asshole, there's certain patterns that my brain like picks out of that when listening to it, and it sounds like happy in this weird way.
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't listen to that album for the first time until not too long ago, so I grew up hearing how shit it was. I was underwhelmed when I listened to it. This actually like has a lot of good parts to it.
Yeah,
this isn't a terrible thing.
It's sort of, but yeah, like Lou Reed said with that even in like the height of what was it made, like late 70s, early 80s, like
Yeah,
when
like
was it made?
mid 70s, I think.
Something like that. So like it's very like metal is still a baby at that
Yeah.
point, right? And he heard like the artists of that time and said, "This is the conclusion of your genre." I don't know if like how sarcastic that was, or like how.
And he said that to like metal artists, like from,
yeah, he said
oh my god,
metal music is the conclusion of your genre. Like this is exactly where you're going.
and it was just, and I haven't. I mean, is it? From what I can recall, the snippet of it, it just sounds like a bunch of feedback and kind of like harsh dissonance. But I mean, if you want to,
It's it.
Okay.
So, but like if you listen to it for more than 10 minutes at a time, like you can start your brain starts to adjust to this like certain musicality of it. You can do that with anything. It's when you hear these like repeating patterns like over and over again, it starts to stick in your brain in this like weird way. If like out of this chaos, like you pick something out of that, and I wanted to do that, but like more overtly. I wanted to take like these big walls of sound and these like feedback things and convert that into a way that's much more digestible than like just leaning amps like against guitars for an hour at a time and picking out selected things.
There's a band in England called Bong. Just
Bong.
Not Bong Ripper,
Okay.
not Bong Smokers, just straight Bong.
Yeah.
They're kind of, I would say, based on the talks that we've had tonight and through our emails back and forth, tying it back into Lou Reed, they do kind of like the Indian raga thing, only in the context of like doom metal.
Oh, interesting.
And drone. So that might be like for you, or for you in particular, or anybody else who wants to try to give that sort of thing a shot. They would be a good jumping off point to see, is this for me?
Well, there's that, and their whole thing is these repetitive patterns.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So they take something like very simple, and then they just keep playing it over and over and over and over. Improvise, add
but
to it.
Going back to Lou Reed,
it's that same thing where you have. I want to take that like these like big harsh things and then make them approachable and listen by repeating them and doing them over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that too, because I've listened to some artists and I've read some comments on other folks, and kind of like in the realm of what you're speaking about with making it more accessible. I've heard some folks remark like loop-based music can be like very menacing as well, or it could be like very like just very foreboding, just because it's like continually kind of like repeating and like just hitting you with like this, I don't know, like just like the repetitiveness could be can just be like intimidating to listen to. So it's interesting to hear that kind of juxtaposed with your like just your perspective on it.
No, I mean, like I get that. Like I make a huge like lo-fi hip hop dude, and like all those songs are like a minute and a half, just beat loops.
Oh, interesting.
And they just go to the next thing.
Yeah.
But I find myself listening to that, like listening to like some of these YouTube channels out there, like the lo-fi hip hop channels, like, and I'm like, I want to hear that same thing, but for 20 more minutes. If you guys could get on that, and it's sort of that's like I've identified that that's like a thing that I like, and like where like I particularly want to go. I'm going to try to influence that as much as I can, because it's sort of it's not like a real attainable goal. That's like really easy to do. We're talking about like really like contrasting concepts. So we're trying to land somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I think the middle ground is when you hit the sweet spot with something, you'll know where the middle ground lies, and that's what you got to aim for.
I think we're like with Rats, like we're definitely we're a far away from harsh as we can be.
Yeah,
but I think that the material that's going to be coming after that is probably going to land somewhere closer to the middle.
Yeah. Rats is definitely a huge step up from Haster in a lot of ways. Not in terms of quality or anything.
I think the songwriting quality is a lot better. But yeah.
Like just in terms of scope, size, idea. It's a huge step up, and I mean, some people like Haster more, some people like Rats more. They're both our babies, but
we love them equally.
Every parent has a favorite, I mean, definitely, it's got some aspects of that. Like I said, it's a lot of, for me, it's the same four chords for about 85% of this 15-minute chunk that we have. So it's a question of, where do we see this middle ground as being within the context of a given idea that we're working on developing.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing it. It sounds like it'll be a fantastic song. So
I can't wait to record it. It's going to be so exciting.
All right. Thank you for you guys' time.
Thank you.